Oh,
Hello. How are you, man? How are the gains?
good. Uh, Hopefully the spreadsheet's not that bad.
No, it was just, I was just,
It was
what
a
the fuck is that?
semi-cheap attempt to try to get my account organized because I overthink things with my ADHD brain.
Gotcha. Or you think you can remember everything and then you have to start realizing that you don't, so.
Yeah, I know better.
Okay, let's,
But yeah, so that'll be probably an added question for later is how to probably organize it better because it's also I started organizing it, then the whole combat power came out, and I tried to reorganize it, and then I
mm-hmm.
started hitting uh, Sacred Force, so I had to reorganize it, and the Star Force, then I had to reorganize it. You know, it's just constant reorganizing that I just got lost in everything.
When you say reorganize, do you just mean which characters you select, or do you just mean adding a column, or?
Adding columns and updating, so there's also some of the combat power or the stats that I originally had them written down as with Link's Legion and buffs, without Link's and
Mm-hmm.
Legion, then um, kind of writing down the numbers in terms of now I do it as I think I put a note in for each column or notes where I could.
Uh-huh.
So with my bossing preset
Yeah.
for the combat power, and I don't know, maybe I just haven't found a more simplistic way to organize it, which I
Mm-hmm.
guess is ironic considering that the whole point of this is to organize it.
It's to organize, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put near infinite amounts of fucking information on the spreadsheet. I guess the question is what is information that you would like to see, right? Kind of like the bias in science. Like science is supposed to be objective, but there's a bunch of non-objectivity in science in terms of what we even choose to science out and what we even are try to do research on, right? That's where where a lot of the bias is. So I guess the first thing is like what we use this file for, and what do you need on here? Do you need this stat on here, or is that something you want to show to other people, or
I
because yeah,
guess that was originally I was having it more as a if I have a character that I'm working on that, for example, right now I guess my hero is 30k stat, 15 or I guess 16k combat power or mil
mm-hmm,
combat power,
mm-hmm,
and he's clearing up to Enlomian and Slime. Then if I have other characters that are around 30k stat, 16 mil combat power, that they should also be able to clear the same. As I've been watching videos, especially some of your content and other people's content, that's not necessarily the case because although I guess Nexon tried to have combat power be this universal number, it
mm-hmm,
doesn't seem to work as well as intended. So I almost wonder if I could just
mm-hmm.
get rid of these columns because they don't necessarily matter as much.
We can always do is just hide the columns, and then you can always just pop them back up when if they're relevant again, right?
True.
That's one thing.
Very true.
Oh, look, guys, I hit 40 boss, 20 attack. Cool, we're done. Yeah.
Nice. Oh yeah, I was gonna say it. Don't feel bad about cubing on the side. It's definitely it's always fun to live, as I hope to find out in minimum 8 months.
Yeah, it's there was a lot of weird stuff going on with the liberations and with the quests and everything. So
Oh sure,
that's
I'll I'll find out
yeah,
one day. That's a goal.
it's a whole undertaking. Yeah. So yeah, what you can always do is just like right click and like hide. I do that to some stuff on mine as well. Let's see what I have. I have account where I was keeping track of my stuff. But this is also, yeah, this is like old numbers. So I also have Star Force, stat, culvert, extra info. But I could also, yeah, I could also hide some of these because some of these things are just like wildly outdated. Just not even remotely, what is this guy, 21k or something? Like some of these things are super, super old. But I was using it to keep track of liberation because I started liberating like 9 characters all around the same time. So, or 8 characters. and to keep track of like which quest I needed to do on which character, was it started getting a little bit foggy sometimes, and having to double check on the character every time I have to go on there to double check it. That helped me keep track of all of it. I think the best thing to probably have on a sheet like this, just kind of think about it, is what is the role of the character? What content would you like to do with the character? And then as a result, what level of funding are you roughly able to or willing to get, right?
Yeah, and I think that's
like
kind
this,
of... Yeah, so especially that table is kind of my goal for each of the mules, in terms of gearing, just because thinking about it is, okay, especially now doing up to the 14 crystals, if I can do an Enlomine and Slime, I'm going to get slime rings over time, I'm going to get kind of treasures over time, and every time I don't do Arcarium every single day, but when I do my weekly bossing run, I just throw it in there because I got the coupon running. It takes 1, maybe 2 hits anyway.
Yep.
So I figure with the kind of minimum putting in, and then what between that and what I do each week, because I'm not going to be running Golix every single day on all my mules. So just getting the reinforced set, leave that at 17, but I know as I get the reinforced set with the coins for the ring and the pendant, I'll get a bunch of backup belts and earrings, so those could potentially go to 21. And I think that was one of my questions is, I have this table that, yeah, sure, it's a good idea, but at what point does funding to this level take away from my main? Because I guess it's a very spark note backstory for as I played MapleStory. Like, I started playing since before pirates were even a thing. So I've been playing kind of on and off for a while, and eventually, I want to say a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, it just kind of finally clicked in terms of how to progress. Because that was my big kind of issue before, I think why I never stuck with it, just because I never knew the real way to progress. And then I figured it out with, you do these dailies, you do these weeklies, it kind of you're doing the bossing tiers with CRA, and then you go to Enlomine, and then you go to Lucid and Will. So it kind of clicked, and I've been putting a lot more time in. But then, it's kind of at the point where I'm now an adult, I have those adult responsibilities, and I'm more of a daily story player now. So I was doing everything or all the dailies on my main, and then every time an event comes out, I kind of focus on that event a bit. So right now I'm not really working on my main, I'm working on the Shade Hyperburn and then the second Hyperburn, which I have as my paladin. And then once I'm done with those for the event, I'll kind of go back to my main. And even throughout the event, I try to work in dailies on my main where I can. This has been a particularly busy year with a lot of just different life events and everything. So pretty soon I'll start having a little bit more time to focus back on the main. But I've just kind of had this recent, I guess, kind of conflict of, I'm thinking about maybe if I want to switch mains to either Paladin or Mithiel, just because, just because I'm starting to get to that point of, liberation actually is possible, because I've actually been watching all your progression videos for a while, and, I know you ask people, what's your goal? Is it go to 270, leave it there? Is it a lib? And at first I thought, I'll never lib, I'll never get there. But now it's like, no, it's actually possible. And
Sixth Job really pulled a lot of things closer to reasonable.
Yeah, and as I was thinking about it, I don't know why this works in my head, but it feels weird to have the celebration of first time lib, and then you get this little tiny claw for Nightwalker. I kind of want something that looks a bit nicer, to be able to kind of show off, so when I log on, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that, and then I can work on other characters where maybe, you don't see it as well, but it's okay, I lived for the first time on another character. So for me, that kind of works out to be either Paladin or Mithiel, because I, considering the Genesis weapons that I like the look of, mixed with the classes I like to play, those are kind of the two that I hit.
So that visual on the weapon is Do you really like the Nightwalker then? Because I feel like if the visual of the weapon is so determinant, I don't feel like the Nightwalker is that far beyond the other characters then, right? They're kind of close then.
Yeah, and I do like the Nightwalker. I think I do just like playing a lot of different classes. I don't think there's particularly one where it's I like this better for a million reasons, or it's so different, and how much I like one class versus the other, which I think is why I'm kind of, aiming for the 10K Legion, and that's what I am looking forward to.
And which ones were you burning again, you said?
The Paladin and the Shade. I just finished the Shade to 260 yesterday, and then I'm working on the Paladin now, going forward.
Gotcha. Okay. And total bossing wise, because we're at the 14 crystal mark now, right? You're thinking of, because you have a bunch of mule here, is that what you have a bunch of potential ones, but you have quite a bit more, so are there any you're thinking of excluding from this list here?
To use
or are you gonna do more
mules?
Yeah, I mean, you could technically keep scaling up on mules into infinity, right? And boss on every single character. And then sell like 3 crystals on every character and then 4 on some, and then you'd cap out. But having to switch link skills and all that, then you have to look at possibilities for that and extra costs there. And then, the funding of the new characters is always going to be a bit wild. So it is very normal though to, like, if you enter like different stages of the transition in your account, that you don't have the same boss mules for all of eternity, right? So characters get added, characters get removed, some characters get left behind if you just don't like the mechanics as much as you thought you were going to. Some characters get hyper burned and get pushed to the front because then you just get free 6 job, right? So it's good to stay flexible in that, but to keep your eyes open on which characters could potentially enter that cluster, but also stay realistic in terms of how much time you have to actually do all of this, right? You said you're pretty much a daily gamer. Like, how much time a day can you open up to really do like 2 boss mules a day, right? Because that's almost where we're going at.
Yeah, I do most weeks have enough time to do 10 to 12 boss mules. There's actually, especially seeing the Shining Star Force, the past couple weeks I've been doing, I've been doing 11 boss mules a week. And there's some that I get strong enough that I can't necessarily do normal Lotus and Daemon without link skills, but I can do up to CRA without link skills. So I'll just, if I have one day where it's like, okay, I have the day off today and I'm just going to do boss mules, all of my boss mules today, I'll typically do what are the ones that matter more to do Lotus and Daemon on, or maybe Slime. So my Shade can now do Slime. I'll make sure I have link skills on him so I can actually run Slime to get more chances at the Slime rings each week. But on my Dawn Warrior, like, I just finished getting reinforced, so I'm not necessarily going to focus on, I don't need Abso necessarily on my Dawn Warrior. I don't need Kana's Treasures on my Dawn Warrior, So I might do no link skills for him and just go up to CRE each week. I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, but, I have these at least funded where almost at least 11, maybe 12 of them can do up to CRA without link skills. So I can just, log on, do them quick, and they all take 15 minutes, maybe a little bit less. So I can kind of, run through, because I do like the idea of boss mules in that, with my limited time, I could grind for half an hour and get, I think, 200 mil meso, or within that half hour, I can do 2 boss mules and get almost 2 bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're giving up some other stuff as well, right? Especially if you get into late game and end game, specifically giving up on like familiars and fragments, right? That's kind of like the difference in the value there that you have to kind of decide for yourself, like what are you willing to give up on each side. But yeah, an event, you know, if Shining is coming, you probably go a little bit harder on the money. Make sure that that's taken care of so that you can get your Star Force gains, and then, you know, when that's over, maybe you focus a little bit more on the grinding, especially if you have Black Mage as a goal, right? Because then your Hexa progression is going to be very important. But I guess for that to know, yeah, where everything is going, what's your color coding here? Is it just the thief, warriors are red kind of thing? Marksman, yeah, archers are green. It looks like. Okay.
Yeah, they're just broken down by
Thieves
job.
are purple.
Because one thing that I wish could be possible is more merged cash shops, because I've noticed that there's a lot of warriors that I like to play more so than mages. Like, there's really no mages that I'm interested in playing except for like Battle Mage, and there's, I think, a lot more lazier classes and easier classes to fund and everything that I could play. You know, like, most of my mules are either explorers or Cygnus because of the cash shop sharing and kind of the ease to play for a lot of classes that I can, you know, in a way afford the pets with the RP points more than doing, like, I would love to play Kaiser and Demon Slayer and maybe learn Demon Avenger, and you know, there's a couple more that I would love to have as mules, but then it's like, well, I don't really have pets for them. So it's like, it just makes it a little harder because I don't want to sit there for each boss and have to press all the, you know, what is it, decent sharp eyes and...
Yeah, getting the pets now is easier with the reward points, but you have to get auto buff on all of them, which adds up being quite a bit of money. And then transferring pets is a lot cheaper, of course, but from a logistical point of view, it's pretty annoying. There we go. If you could just like throw them in storage or something, that'd be infinitely easier, like having to go into cash shop, throw them in there, pick them up again, especially if there's other items in there, you have to go look for them every time. Yeah. So you find yourself more looking at strength characters and warriors rather than explorers, for example. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's another layer of categorizing the characters, but it doesn't necessarily overlap with what you enjoy playing.
Yeah, and I had that was another way I reorganized, is I organized all of my explorers together and then all my Cygnus together, and then it's like, well, based on all the, you know, I don't want to have all these level 216 characters in between my mules and stuff, because I want to be able to see in the next steps kind of column, what am I focusing on with them, you know. So then I reorganized it just by highest to lowest level, and then it got weird. So I gotta find maybe something that works a little bit more.
Yeah, what I have here is like these two are like main status, these three are like side character status, and then these are boss mule status, and then this is just and then down here is just everything else, and then these last two are characters that still exist, but they're like dupes and characters that don't really use for anything. That's my grouping here with the line in between to like separate them out a little bit. Yeah, the pitch progress is really just for other people who people want to know that a lot of the times.
Sure.
Culvert, I was just kind of keeping track of that, but I haven't done much of Culvert when they changed the score that you need, right, to get your the G skills. We had to get way less in terms of score, so that's when I started doing a lot less of this. I want to pick it back up, but it's like hard to schedule. Like on 14 weekly Culvert runs. Yeah, and then Stat and Star Force I was keeping track of in the beginning to kind of see if there's one that's way behind, and then to know that was probably next time there's a Star Force event I probably have to go there. But then, you know, some of them have potential badges, some don't. Some of them maybe have use shield, some don't, right? So the Star Force is not really that useful of a number either. Level maybe not that useful either, so I would probably be looking at, because this one is 255, if I were to use it again like today, I'd probably just like hide these two. I'd probably hide this one as well. It's not that useful, but maybe, you know, maybe people want to know that. I don't know. There's like other stuff that I'm thinking. Liberate mission is here. 6-shop mastery is unlocked because I was doing a bunch of those, so I wanted to keep track of that. Obviously all of these are not 260 yet, so I can't even start that yet. And then this stuff, the open nodes and all of this stuff, this was all for that was all for Project CRA back in the day. So that's why the solo CRA is at the end there. But I guess at this point these can all be hidden as well. 7-Day Monster Parker, where they have an Android or a heart. That was because the Wondroid event came by every now and then, right? And I wanted to make sure that I could see. I think that's why I officially made the file. No, I think the first time I made the file was for the Dark Doom totems, just to check who got Dark Doom totems. And then I added here. Oh, this is very nice. Yeah. Why don't you just show me the whole column here? Oh, this is so great. One to the right. There we go. Love me some Excel files. But yeah, potential badge. I don't know why. I guess just a no. But yeah, Dark Doom totems. Because when I was looking for burns, I could use this easily to check like which character has a benefit already. You know, if you have a potential badge and you have 3 Dark Doom totems, then like these 3 guys here, Corsair, Bowmaster, Shatterer, like these could be strong boss mules, right? Because you get free damage, something like that. Healing familiars and drop rate familiar. That was when familiars were getting reworked. You were around back then, right?
I believe so. Yes.
So try to get them all the spider familiars and the what was the Platoon Kronos, I believe, was like the easiest healing familiar you could get, just so that it have something. So yeah, those are things that were relevant for me at some point, but I guess at this point not as relevant anymore. Some of them at least.
Yeah.
So what I
think
would
I was
imagine
kind
is
of stepping. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, I think I was kind of with the spreadsheet I have. I think I was kind of overthinking or kind of stepping on my own toes in terms of I have this tab for Star Force, but kind of like how you mentioned how there's badges and shields and everything. The actual total value doesn't necessarily matter as much. So I think that's why I started to break it down with CRA and then ABSO.
Yeah.
To see what was 17, what was 21, and then I kind of switched systems where first I just put an X, but then as it's like, well, I'm starting to get good money where I can start going to 21. It's like, well, then I kind of need to change it from an X to know which ones are 21, which ones are 17. But then I've never fully updated my whole list. So I think it also looks like just a total mess because I'm, half working through it and half updating it.
Yeah. No, and that's understandable. But that might be if you don't feel like you want to go in there and just do it real quickly, there might be like a design flaw that you need to overcome first that makes it more workable for you. Because there might be like that aversion. There might be something of a like I don't really like doing it, but there might also be like every time you look at it, you're like, oh, there's so much I need to do. Like I don't know where to start, and then you just don't start. I mean, that's a little bit of a ADD, ADHD thing, right? Where if you can't like break it down into smaller tasks. So if I were like if you want to make it workable, I would say step 1 would be decide what the purpose of this is, right? What do you want to be able to see in here? You want to be able to see, and then be like how, and then just like write out like what information do you need to be able to see that all of that information. Make those new columns. See what overlaps already now and keep those. See what doesn't overlap and just hide those, and then start from there and then see if that becomes more workable if you can use it that way.
Sure.
That's what I would do. And then you have a plan for the funding, right? For the mules. Do you want me to look over this, or is this already like tried and true for you? Like this works?
This is generally just kind of how I've been looking at it. It seems like it's just kind of something that just makes sense in my head. But just because it makes sense in my head doesn't mean that, especially if you look at it and go, oh, this is what you plan for each of your mules. Well, it would take about this much funding, where compounded over all of the mules, that could be funded into your main and can get you this kind of benefit instead.
Right. Sure. Well, so there's 2 things with that. One is definitely, like you were saying in the beginning, right? Just in the way that you cannot really look at combat power and at range and everything. part of that is because the numbers are just wonky, but the other part is because there are class differences, right? And therefore, when it comes to like funding the characters, there's like general levels of funding for it for sure. But I typically don't make a list of like, this is exactly the items I want and this is exactly the stars I want, or like even roughly the stars I want. I usually just fund it with whatever resources I have available on my account and to very close to the efficiency. And then I just do the bosses on them, and then I go by feel of like, okay, is this maybe a little bit of a hands thing? Do I need to learn how to do the bosses better on the character? Or how long does it take? And to see like, can I, get to a better time with just playing the class more? Or do I need to put on some nodes? Or, are the nodes already pretty good? Do I need to put on some more money? Or do I need to work on some more symbols? Whatever the character like needs to be able to do the bosses in, if you have like the 15 minutes max, if you kind of have that in your idea, I want to be able to do as many bosses as possible in those 15 minutes. I would kind of go off of that and just see how close you are to that. And then as you're doing them for a while, and as an event is approaching, I usually just look at the inventories or have, right? That's probably one of the things you could put on this list is like, is it a character that needs a boost right now, or is it a character that's in a pretty good position right now? And then if it's a character that needs a boost, then it'll be a higher priority for whenever an event comes around to double check it, see where your backups are at. If there are no backups, cool. I mean, it needs a boost, but I can't do anything right now, so I'm not going to do anything. Go over to the next character. When you're doing like full account management, you're going to always be spending money on other characters, but like you're right in the fact that you want to guard the fact that your priorities, your projects for your main are always going to be more important, right? Especially once you get the first establishment on the boss mules, in that even though the crystals, were adjusted, how many of these can really, like, that you're doing boss mules, could do like all of the 14, so like Lotus Damien and everything below? How many do that whole thing?
So I just did everything on my shade yesterday as I got to 260, and I ran it on my shade. And then I kind of, in that kind of clears tab, I just kind of said, well, if my shade can do all of that, it's definitely not stronger than my Buck or Dawn Warrior, Hero, or Me Heal. So I just kind of put the values in for there. So that's something I can, confidently say for those. But I got to go back in to see what everything else can clear, especially because my Nightwalker, getting ready for this session, I was kind of like, well, I haven't really pushed the limits of what I can and can't clear. So let me kind of run a few bosses in practice mode or actually run it to see what I can. So actually, the other day was the very first time that I really even attempted Gloom or Darknell, and I was like, oh, I can kill both of them. And it's not necessarily within the half hour, it's not necessarily a min clear, but it's also not a 3-minute run. It's something that, I can comfortably run this, which would be good because it can get me more boxes, chance at rings, whatever it might be. And then it was just kind of well, why did I not run this sooner? Oh, because I've been focusing on the event and getting the mules done, and with this past year just not having the time because of all the life events going on, which is why I think that my general plan right now is to kind of get this event done in terms of getting my Paladin 260, figuring out what I'm going to main, whether it's going to continue to be the Nightwalker or do the Me Heal or the Paladin and switch it to there, and then just like, okay, I need to just commit to doing this. And then each update that comes out, like, yeah, sure, I'm sure they're all going to have a hyper burn. Sure, get that hyper burn to the 260 and everything to get the benefit of it. But other than that, just focus on my main so I can actually progress and meet my goal of clearing Black Mage.
Yeah, that's like the internal problem with bit more of a Legion main or having such a wide scope, is that in different stages of the game you're gonna have to do some kind of narrowing down on like horizontal penetration through the game, right, or vertical. Like, what do you want to play? Do you want to go deep into the game with one character, or do you want a bunch of characters that can do a bunch of things? There's always going to be sacrifices and pros and cons to all of those situations. Of course, the game wants you to eventually do both of those, but it might be I think you are stumbling on something that is probably correct, which is that when you're still in the build-up phase and you haven't even 100% locked down a main yet, and you haven't started your liberation yet, then you might be getting a little bit sidetracked. And at this point, if you're going for a whole lot of like 21 CRAs, but your main, you barely have 270, it might be that there is a little bit too much going into building up the foundation of the account and not so much on what the foundation is for, right? Again, you don't have to have a character and you don't have to liberate, but you probably thought more in the beginning like it's never going to happen anyway, so I'm just going to enjoy myself and play a lot of characters. And then suddenly you're, if you really buckle down, you can see like, oh, I can actually do a lot more content and I'm probably way closer, and it's achievable, it's within reach, rather than it's something that is just going to be a pipe dream, so I shouldn't even aim for it, right? I guess you're kind of in that situation now.
Yeah, and I think that's actually why I have in the first have the average level needed below 250, because that's something that I just kind of said, okay, take the 10k minus everyone above 250 and then divide it by how many remain. It's like, oh, that's the average level I need. So instead of trying to think of it as, oh, I got to get super high level on everybody, making it more manageable. So because I have everybody that's contributing to my Legion is 210 and up. And especially with all the EXP vouchers, it's like, okay, then the goal is just use the EXP vouchers and the growth pot selectors, get them all to 216. And then going forward, every time there's the growth selectors, oh, there's 4 levels. That gets you to 220. So I'm not necessarily going in and training. I'm trying to use the free event stuff for that. I wouldn't say there's anything... When it's not an event, I did do, I think, 1 or 2 characters that I just said, oh, I'm going to do all my arcane dailies and Monster Park on that character, then do my Sacred Force dailies on my main, and that's kind of what I did each day. And I had time for that each day, and I'm starting to get back into that. But I think I'm being redundant at this point, sorry, but I think I've just, been the life events and everything, then I'm so focused on the event that I'm not doing the main.
And you will have that with events, that they will definitely come in and be higher priority because of the sheer value that you can get from it. And then it's a good idea to look at things that aren't as helpful. The ones, usually it's the dailies that you kind of do last minute anyway because you're already not really gravitating towards them, and just cut those out for a little bit so you don't keep endlessly piling on more stuff, right? Because you're human, you have limited time in the day, you have other stuff going on. So it is good to acknowledge, like, oh, there's an event. So usually what I do whenever there's a new event, I look at the stores, I look at the rewards, and I see if those rewards are even things that I need or want or don't give a fuck about. And then depending on the category, I will look at it for the first week and go pretty hard on it. And then after the first week, reassess, like, okay, how much time did it take me and what did I get? Does it still fall under those categories or did it shift at all? And, like when it comes to event shops, like, well, okay, how many points did I really get from a week? What is really in the... what can I then realistically, over the entire event, right, buy from the shops? And as a result, do I need to do as much as I'm doing now? Or can I do a little bit less? Or can I skip some weeks? Or can I miss a week? Or do I, do even more than I did if I want to be able to buy all these items? I think that's a good reassessment to do after the first week, and then kind of set the pace for the rest of the event. And also based on that, like, which other dailies do I maybe, do I not do Commercy 4 times a day, on 4 characters anymore to try to get the narrows for backups? Like maybe I push that back a little bit. Maybe I don't do all of my weeklies for Abzo yet to get like really quick Abzo and stuff. And the other event, quote unquote, is the Shining Star Force that's coming up, right? So I guess I also wanted to ask for you what you did last week with the cube sale and with the 5.10.15. What did you work towards there?
So the first thing I kind of focused on was, because I have the Shade and Paladin that I'm burning, getting the gear I have for that to 17, and especially looking at the item burning for the Shade that I was doing. Because I had I don't know if this provides any good context, but I had a pre-existing Paladin at 236 that I already had some Arcane Force worked up on. I already have some backups for CRA and just kind of some, potentials put in. But for my Shade, I made a new one to take advantage of all the rewards. So by the time I was 230, I have max boost nodes. I would think decent level skill nodes and everything. So I focused the Shining Star Force on getting all my gear, making sure all my gear for my Paladin and my Shade is 17. And then if I had backups, like just going for 21 stars, that's why my Shade has 2 of the 3 at 21. Just because it's like, well, that will help me get to the item burning faster, because I figure if I can get strong enough to do Easy Lucid now, then that's, how many days worth of the Urda request, or what is it? What's the fragment daily, the 3,000?
Oh, yeah, the Urda daily, yeah.
Yeah, because I was just doing the Urda daily on my Dawn Warrior, to unlock level 1 masteries for him, but it's like, well, okay, it's going to take me, I think it's 9 to 10 days worth of those dailies to unlock level mastery 1 for both masteries. But on the Shade, if I can do Easy Lucid, that gives you 100 fragments plus the 2 soul Urda from the event. Then you just need, a couple more soul Urda. Actually, there's 4 total, I guess, so I only need an additional 2.
Yep.
And then that's kind of how many dailies I saved, and then I get level 1 mastery for those.
Yep.
So that's why I kind of tried to push my gear a little more on the Shade, and then what's left, or I did the same thing for the Paladin, just upgrade what I could, and then from there I actually put the rest of my money into my Mihil, just because, for Star Force, just because I might be swapping to a main, or to the Mihil as a main, so I figure just do what I can in case that's what I want to switch to. And if not, it's still a really good boss mule that I really enjoy, that I can do Lotus and Slime on. So it's more of a, because I'm not sure which one I'm going to do, but either way, I want to make it funded to make it strong. Because I did notice I have one more Arcane to get. I got to get the shoulder. So I did Will in a party for 3 weeks in a row, and all 3 weeks I didn't even blue dot. So it's like, well, I obviously need to fund it more so I can actually get the benefit of doing this run. So that's also why I put some more money in it.
Gotcha. Okay. Was it just Will? Like the Lucid runs were fine, or?
The Lucid runs have been fine. So I don't know if I'm just going about the boss wrong, where I should just burst most chances I get. I don't know if I'm just saving my burst because it's like, oh, we're gonna get out of with 6 of us and everyone's bursting at the very beginning of the fight. Like, I'm not gonna waste my burst. I'll wait till the second segment after the first test or something like that. But maybe it's just I haven't figured out how to utilize my damage in the boss fight to blue dot. But it feels like,
with a random party, or like people who know each other?
Just random parties.
Random, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's harder to communicate that way. Do you kind of like double check the other people, kind of like look at their stats, look at their combat power to kind of see where you're at?
I do. I just don't think I'm have enough knowledge to figure out, like, oh, the other 5 have about this much combat power and everything, and this is the class they have. So they're going to put in more damage, so maybe I should find different people for the party. I kind of just say, hey, like, these 6 people in a party and no one is super over-geared or under-geared, so I should be able to put in enough damage, and then I end up not.
Okay. 33.6k stat. We're going to see which one of my... Oh, I have my familiars on the whole time. Nice. That should be about let's see how much my combat power goes up. 91.6. Okay, that's about 30 mil. That's what I thought. Nice.
Holy shit, nice.
Yeah, Liberation's pretty fucking good, dude.
Yeah, I think that's also why it's like I definitely agree. I've been way too distracted by, maybe it's just FOMO in terms of, especially Monster Party XP has been doubled, so I need to do those on other characters, and maybe I'm getting too caught up into that, because it will always be there, and it doesn't take that much to get other characters to 260 and everything, so maybe I should just be getting away from some of that and focusing on the main.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say, but everyone has like a different purpose with their account, right? So what is ultimately the most fun for you? Like, what do you look forward to when you're logging in? What do you like doing on a day?
I would say just because I have relatively limited time, what I look forward to is just I like that this is such a game that you put in your half hour a day of dailies and then you're progressing over time. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily mind that, oh, it's going to take me longer because I'm not putting in an hour, 2 hours grinding each
Mm-hmm.
day to get the frags, get the nodes or whatever I need, get the meso that I need, because I
Mm-hmm.
am progressing over time. So I've kind of been thinking about this a little bit recently, especially as I've been going for these, kind of coaching sessions. Is like, okay, well, I need to reevaluate like what's my primary goal, and I
Yep.
think that what I've kind of decided on is my primary goal now is liberate first. The Legion will come later. The Legion will come over time, especially with hyper burning, with whether it's compensations or
Mm-hmm.
EXP vouchers or whatever else. So I think I've decided I need to liberate, and then after that was next is okay. Now I need to decide which of the three is going to be my main, and then just full commit on there. Which when I did just focus on my Nightwalker, that was fun for me because it's like, oh, I'm seeing him get stronger. I'm seeing him now. I can um, clear new bosses or
Mm-hmm.
reaching new. I'm actually 270 with I think I'm like 95% or something like that. So, if I would have put in more of the time into that, I might be 272, almost 273 by now. So I just like the progress over time, even if it's a little bit slow. So I'm trying to
Sure.
find a main now and then just going to commit to that. And that'll be just as fun for me as working on the Legion.
Yeah, because you have 10k Legion as a goal, which is it's cool. But like being at 9.6, it might seem that you're like very close to 10k, but you're not. the
Yeah.
the levels will slow down like so much.
Oh, yeah.
And you're gonna get hyperburns after that, and it's like those are gonna, you don't want to be like, well, you don't have to go for 10k at all because you'll just get there eventually. No, I get that you want that as a higher priority. I get that, but just like when you're saying like you want to liberate or you have to liberate, well, starting to liberate, right? I would say put it there because when you're starting to liberate and that's going, then your character is only going to get stronger, little by little. So liberation is good then, and then more funding is not necessary anymore at that point. And then and it's only one run per month, right? That opens up a whole lot of time that you're not preparing specifically for that you can just spend that time on making more money for your account. And I took a very long time building up my boss mules, so a lot of it was funded very organically with like extra nodes and stuff from events where my main character was already, Matrix was already pretty much full, so it didn't make any sense to use nodes on anything else. All of the cubes and all the flames basically came from the other bossers, and it just kept raining down like a cascade of value, right, onto the next character. And then when that character had like decent flames on everything, decent potential and everything, then I went to the next one. And then because that builds up your money so much, then whenever there's an event and you have backups, you can always look at what does your main character need to do anything to get stronger, right? And then you can really prioritize the main character. But yeah, I think you might be spread a little thin at this point, so I think narrowing down is a good idea. So what, besides the look of the liberated weapon, what is like what are like your pros and cons that you're thinking of when you see these three classes? Like what makes it hard for you to decide, I guess?
I would say two biggest pros, I think, for the Nightwalker, or I guess three. The first thing is that it is like a damage class. I feel like of the three, the Nightwalker might be easiest to achieve getting Black Mage, especially sooner, because I'm already max Arcane Force. My Sacred Forces is obviously a bit higher than the other two characters. Also, the amount of frags and time I've put into it already.
Mm-hmm.
The con is strictly just I don't want to force myself into this class just because I invested this time already. Leave myself open to switching. When it comes to the, I guess Paladin's easier to explain. I really love the idea of duoing with another person. Playing video games in the past, my favorite thing has always been, especially doing RPGs, I guess maybe Lost Ark's a good example. I liked playing the Lancer because I liked being the tank that would just CC taunt the boss and let my friend, whose favorite thing is DPS, play whatever DPS class he wanted. So I would CC tank, and then he would do all the damage and be very mechanical and have good dexterity, and everything was, because I don't have the fast finger dexterity precision.
Gotcha.
Like I need the simpler classes almost. So I liked being the CC tank while someone else did the damage, and like that's how I like to contribute. So especially with the Paladin, there's Divine Echo and Sacred Sanctity. That would be great. I kind of wish there was a little bit more benefit to pairing, kind of like a Lyn. But I also just like the look and aesthetic of the Paladin. So I would say that that's kind of the pro for the Paladin. Then Michiel is just kind of like he's kind of a support, and I just like the look of the class.
It's pretty similar to Paladin, the role, not as much duo, but like a similar positioning as like a tanky warrior.
I do kind of like the Royal Guard aspect of it too. Like I like the idea of, iframing for 4 seconds out of every 5, but not just that, but also, I'm going to sacrifice not being Royal Guarded for now to make sure I am Royal Guarded for a specific attack, whether it's Dragon and Lucid or I can't think of anything else, but so I do like the play style and everything of all 3 classes. There's not necessarily a huge pro or con that points me towards one or the other. So I figure, especially doing this session today, it's the perfect time to figure out if I should switch or if it's beneficial to switch. Because I guess the other thing I'm struggling with too is, even though I'm thinking of Paladin and Michiel, is there one of the two that has a much more difficult time or would require maybe an extra 20 or 30% of time and effort in order to achieve the same goal? Achieve the goal of Black Mage, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it seems like your Nightwalker is just already... It's going to be so much closer, right? Especially if I look at the combat power, but you're already... I look at the Grandis, right? The Sacred Power. It's just, that's already a lot more days of dailies, and you already mentioned that you're working on your Hexa quite a bit more and everything. So you're just going to get closer to that point. But even like getting to that point doesn't mean you're getting a clear immediately. Just because you're getting a clear doesn't mean you're going to get like a set party immediately. But it is good to get started with one. I understand the concern about like being completely locked in, but as weird as it sounds, you'll probably start like your second or your third character also liberating while the first one is not even done yet. I think we're headed that way, especially if you keep playing the other 2 characters because you also like them and you want to see if you want to have them as a side character. Almost nobody in this game has like 1 character, and that's like their main, and then everything else is just like up to 260 if it was a burn, like boss mules, and that's it, Vast majority of people have at least 1 secondary character or like even a third character that they just play a lot as well, and they also enjoy it, and they try to do a little bit of both.
Sure.
Because that's also what becomes fun after a while, especially once you start entering like the waiting room. So waiting for arcane drops is already, that's a little bit, but then once you get into the pitch boss waiting room, right, waiting for the accessories to drop, or into the eternal waiting room where you can't really jump to the next boss difficulty very quickly, that takes quite a while, and you're just waiting to get eternals, and you're waiting for events to use your money on. When you get to that point, that's when a lot of people start pivoting to second or third characters in their account, just to make sure that they have something that they can still feel like they're making progress on. And then with way less money, and at that point, then you'll get into the situation of like, oh, do I pay 20 or 30 bill on this, on an event on this character? I was like, well, you have 300, so, you deserve to use that for some quick gains, and then just keep the big lump. And that's when you start using more calculators and everything as well, where it's like, okay, I need to, I have 2 eternal pieces. How much money do you save? It's probably, an eternal piece probably within like 30 to 40 bill max. It's probably going to either boom or go. So you don't really need to save much more money than that. If you're an outlier, then you got to use another refent. But you kind of get used to how much money you really need to save and how many projects you really have on a character, what is realistic, and how much is just spending money to build up your account. Between these 3, though, it seems Nightwalker is just stupid strong. So that probably just makes you drawn in, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Seems like Paladin and Mihail are a little bit more where your heart is, but it's tough at this point to feel like you want to abandon that potential strength of the Nightwalker. So with these givens, I would just make sure that if you want to be able to main pivot at some point, that you just keep up with the most time-gated stuff as much as you can between those characters. And then otherwise just find, but select one of them that gets like the main clumps of rewards. So what I mean by that is like I would do symbol dailies, like grandest symbol dailies, probably on as many as you can, just to keep the sacred power up, so that you don't lose the progress towards Saren and towards easy Kalos and that kind of stuff, and the free damage towards the character itself. But that you choose one character, like who gets your Monster Park EXP, who gets your Tenebrous Dailies EXP, who gets your regular, all of your EXP from the symbol dailies, and who gets like the Punch King EXP, that kind of stuff. That you just have a primary target for that, and that is linked to the purpose of your account and the purpose of your character. Now, 270 is already good level in that sense to do Black Mage on. More levels the better. Like up to 275 is probably a good idea, just to get your full damage for all the stages of Black Mage. But if you're not really far in terms of really close in terms of damage yet, I don't know if you ever done like a BA, or because you only just went into normal Tenebrous, right?
Yeah, I remember I did it was a while ago that I did a BA on my Nightwalker. I can't remember what it is. Mm-hmm. I meant to do one recently, but I've been working nights all week and I just didn't have the time to do it.
How dare you? Yeah, no, it's no worries. But if your level is still steadily progressing, and we get those big potions every once in a while, right? So that's also nice. Those big clumps of EXP. It might be more of a fact of not. I would say like one prio is make sure that you're making general progress on the hyperburn, so that they're somewhat done by the end, right? But you already have one of them done, and then the other one is already almost 240, and we still have months for that, right? So the Paladin can be a relatively low priority, quote unquote, in terms of finishing the hyperburn. But if you're trying to
start
building up sacred power as soon as possible, and you're trying to get into 6 job and all of that, then it's a relatively high priority. But again, you have limited.
Real quick, I lost the last couple minutes of what you just said. I think the call quit out or something.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying like the general priority in terms of the events, right? You want to look at like, is my priority to finish off the hyperburn, or is my priority to start building up 6 job as soon as possible on the Paladin, right?
Okay.
If it's the former, then you can probably ease off the throttle, because you got until February, and there's going to be like more events near the end, right, that help you boost the character faster. So then that's not as important that you spend a lot of time. And before that, I was saying like it's good to have know what your big chunks of EXP are, right, and know which character it's going to, and have that be reflective of where you want to go with your character. Did you get that part?
I didn't hear that part, but I am kind of looking to that, where I do have, like for the Sunny Sundays, the days that are for training XP and Monster Park. I kind of have like, okay, well, the Monster Park can go on the Paladin, especially as I get to the 240, 250 range. I think my general plan was, especially with the Shade, like in my head, the Shade is just kind of done. I'll keep doing bosses because I have the 18-star Absol right now. And I'll keep running Lotus and Daemon and Slime, so that way I can get the cores for the Absol. And then, hopefully I get Easy Lucid. If not, like it's not a huge deal. But then for the Paladin, just do dailies until it's 260, and then if I decide, I actually want to do my Mihail and Nightwalker, well, the Paladin's done. I don't really need to do much else relative to the event, and then just focus on my main. Because I know we got till February, and it's a long time, but it's like, well, if I'm going to be doing dailies anyway, I'll just do the actual Arcane dailies, and then just when I'm done, don't even spend another second, switch to the main, do their make sure their dailies are done.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a good experience. So this is like a little bit extra, a little bit of meta in terms of like the progression. You progressing to Liberation on, let's say that you do the Nightwalker first, right? Because it's like the closest to it now. That also gives you like the experience of what does it entail to get a black mage party, you know, to get people together. Like, how much damage does everyone need? Like, what kind of information, what kind of coaching do people need? Your mechanics are going to be way better on the next character. It's going to be a cakewalk with a paladin or a Mihal, because you figure out that you can actually tank a whole bunch of stuff that the Nightwalker had to be scared about, right?
True.
And that whole process will get smoother. And what happens to people as well is when you have really strong parties, and you know, from the time you start to the time you finish, parties get like way stronger. Sometimes people end up parties end up splitting up, right? Or not splitting up, but like splitting into smaller subsections where they start like carrying each other's characters. Sometimes they do that at lib, right? Because then you gain a lot of damage. But sometimes already before lib, people are getting so strong that they can kill quite a lot faster. And then you can start carrying each other's characters, and then you could be like, oh wait, I have a Mihal that's ready, you know, or I have a paladin. If someone has like a strong damage dealer, I can buff that character. So if you keep up with the more time gated dailies, so that's mostly like weekly bosses, maybe some fragment kind of stuff, right? And symbol dailies and symbol weeklies. Like if you keep up with those things, then you can always pivot to the other characters, and they won't be very far behind, because you know eventually things like Star Force, not Star Force, things like Sacred Power and all that, you're gonna get really close together. Even if you start like months later, you'll be like 10 or 20 or maybe 30 lower, but you'll still be at or above whatever the boss needs, right? Even though the start of Sacred Power is very slow, you very quickly get to the point of where you can start doing damage to bosses that you may not even have access to. Like Sacred Power wise, you're pretty close to be able to start attempting, you know, to do like Hard Saren and Easy Callus. Whereas damage-wise, you're probably, I'm guessing you're not near that at all yet, right? So if you keep up with dailies like that, you're going to, with the time-gated stuff, you're going to be on ahead of the curve, but you need that because you're going to be a little bit behind of the curve probably in terms of the leveling stuff. So that way you can compensate, be, you know, staying in the pocket, basically.
Yeah, and I think you brought up some really good points too, because would you say that, I guess to maybe rephrase how I should be thinking about Liberation, is there's the funding to be able to clear Black Mage with a party, but once you meet that requirement, it's kind of just the same thing each month in terms of if you can clear it that first time, you can clear it each month to progress in the quest, and the other 29 days of that month, you can focus on doing your dailies still do it on the Nightwalker, but also use that time and funding and effort on the Paladin to be able to get it up, you know, to kind of start getting up to the Liberation point.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that that's kind of more of a better way to kind of rephrase how to think about Liberation?
Yeah, it's on different levels, but like in the past, you know, people would be like, oh, I don't know what class I want to play. It'd be like, well, you know, just log in and just play it for like a few days and get to like level 120 and enjoy the fourth job a little bit and then see what you like. Now it's like, oh, make sure you just make it a hyper burn, do Terra Blink and get it to like 220 and jump around a little bit and see what you really like, and then maybe delete it again and make another one. And we're getting to the point now where if you know which character you like, but you know, if you don't know for sure if you want to like truly main it, just liberate it first and kind of see where you're at, and then you know that goalpost is constantly moving. Liberation is still a huge hurdle, but if you know that there's even a chance that you want to main a character, the faster you start living, the better, because it's an 8-month process, so the sooner you can get it started. And again, if you have already a character that's closer, even if you do end up not playing that guy forever, you have a really strong C10A mule with it, right? Because level-wise, getting past 260 is completely unnecessary unless you know for sure that you're going to go into the grandest bosses, that you know that you're going to go into like Kalos and Saren and all that stuff. That's where your levels is really important. But you can stay 260, 261, whatever you are, and get to like solo C10A eventually. All by just gradually funding up your characters and building them up. You know, once you've gone full circle and you've got your full 12 or 13 or 14 character roster or whatever, you just go back to the top and you look at, oh, this guy has like 3 of each arcane backup and I have 17 stars and there's an event coming up. And I could get access to like 2 or 3 stronger bosses, or do my whole bosses faster, right? In the 15 minutes, maybe squeeze in a harder boss. And there's no project on the main character, or only 1 or 2, and I have way more money than that. So I can just try to walk my arcanes up from 17 to 19. Okay, maybe use a few backups there. Boom. Okay, now this character is stronger. And then like a year later, maybe you have like 5 of each backup again. You try to go for 21 arcanes, But you're always you can always take the path of least resistance between all of your characters so that eventually they all get across the finish line, but they will start going there in very different ways. One character you might have to, you get no dominators, nothing, so you might have to like transpose, or you get 1 and that's it, and just never anything else, and you don't want to, be without a pendant, so maybe you transpose a Sweetwater Wind pendant on like 1 or 2 of the characters, maybe a few other ones. You actually get into Vihilla and you start getting a Daybreak and use Daybreak and Superior, right? The one thing that will slow you down a little bit that I did notice, I don't know if you're doing that on all the characters though, is like what you said here with the Reinforced. I think Reinforced is fine if your goal is like Lotus and Damien and below. Yeah, and Slime. If you're aiming beyond that, I would just skip the Reinforced part so you don't spend your coins on it, and that you can put your coins directly towards Superior. But that might be a step that's easier to do. Well, you have a big Legion now, but that might be a step that's easier to do on like Hyperburns as well, because you'll be so strong so quickly, and you could just like blow up Helix and not worry about it. Whereas if it's a character that's more slowly transitioning, right? That's more, because yeah, this you could ask this like to 20 people and you give 20 different answers basically, right? But if you don't get kind of treasure rings, then you want to take a Meister. If you play during an event where there's a bunch of event rings, maybe you just pick 2 event rings instead, and then have enough damage. And then maybe the first time you get a slime ring, if everything is already 21 and some stuff is already, you're going past Lotus and Damien and maybe going towards 20 on stuff, maybe the first slime ring you get, you actually just try to 19 it when there's an event. And if it doesn't go, it's whatever, you keep what you have now. And if it does go to 19, now you have a really nice ring to switch into, and then it becomes a bigger upgrade, right? That way you can kind of make those bigger jumps in upgrade that you had to do on a main character back in the day, because otherwise, there's so much potential gain and so many steps of new bosses that you could access. But with a mule, you can take a huge risk, because if it doesn't hit, it's whatever. Or you can not safeguard when you maybe need to or something like that. Because like if it doesn't hit, it's whatever. You can still keep making your weekly money. But if it does hit, now suddenly you can actually get access to a whole bunch of damage. So that's why it doesn't need to be as rigid. But there are certain, getting full Abzo is pretty good. I'm at characters now. Most of my characters kind of skipped Abzo and then either went into 20 Abzo, or straight into 17 Arcanes, basically. Yeah, that's what I did with my character. So I had like CRA with Tyrants. I don't know if on this. No, so this character's already like a few steps in. So this character's now at 19 Arcanes. Well, yeah, and with the lip and everything, so this character is at like probably easily C10 Duo Lotus. Lucid Hard Will solos are like way too easy already. But I'm looking more at something like there's a lot of steps, but like this guy, for example. And this is like the funding for like a 250. So I'm looking at what am I looking at? Easy Luwil, normal slime, everything below, but it's probably already. It's definitely possible to like party Hard Lucid Hard Will if I wanted to. Yeah, I already did the transfer hammers here, but there's there's a Hayato shoulder. You don't see that usually.
Yeah.
But because you have Superior and some other stuff, the boss accessory pieces are kind of gone. So I have the Hayato shoulder with the set bonus with the kind of treasure. But yeah, I think I boomed all the rings on this guy. Okay, well, so this guy's not going to go past the 19 ring anytime soon. Okay. But I have a 19 slime ring as well. And the spear's already 21. There's a 19 weapon. I don't even remember why. I think I just... because I had a lot of backups and I didn't have Abzo. But look, there's no Abzo on this character. But this character is... what is it? 27, 28k stat. This character do a lot of things. Lotus Daemon very quickly. But it's a Tyrant Cape, Tyrant Shoe. So you can try different levels of funding with different equips and kind of just see if the character itself works. You can maybe even try the, what's it called here? Like if you get the drop from, I'm blanking. Akechi Mitsubishi, right? Like they said. Maybe that one is actually pretty useful, you know? Because it's basically an Abzo. It's got the flame advantage and everything. It just doesn't have the set bonus. The one thing I did try and is definitely not good that I do not advise is making 20-star Abzo, because that is just such wasted money. Because if you have 17 Abzo weapon and the rest of the armors are 20, like that's fine. But for the weapon, just keep it 17 and then upgrade it to an arcane. If you have to buy it, that's fine. But you're probably doing boss mules a step below that anyway. So. But again, this to show like you don't need the Abzo either. Like that's not necessary. But this is like this is the future when you have a lot of bossers and you have a lot of cubes that they're making, and you're just going to the next character, one item at a time, just bring it all up. And that's kind of what you could see in my file. Like I had the whole like 9% on everything, work up to 12% on everything, work up to 15% on everything. But like, you know, all the characters at a time before I move on to the next thing. And then, but that's free funding at that point, right? It's basically with free items, and that doesn't take any money away from your main at that point.
Okay. I think that I was having this, like that kind of grid where I say how I fund my mules with the specific items and star and stuff. I think that was my way of, instead of overthinking it and thinking of, oh, well, what does this character have? Can I, you know, just kind of use what you got kind of thing? I think that was just it made me kind of overthink. So I think that's why I made this kind of grid, just to show like, okay, you know, it's not that necessarily difficult to get one, like a set of Abso, and then just, you know, whenever there's a shiny star for something, just 17 star, and then that's just like a standardization way to just make it easier in terms of all the characters, instead of doing what character has what. So I think that's kind of why I was looking to go this way, because you know, you fight Pink Bean enough times, you're going to get 3, 4, 5, 6 Pink Bean marks. You know, obviously, I mean, I'm not trying to put a pat mark in there because they drop so infrequently, and the chances of getting that to 21, you know, is small compared to just getting black bean marks, and you might have 7 of them, and then it's like, you know what, I'm going to get it to 20 just to make bossing a little bit easier. I think that's kind of how I was approaching it.
But one character will get it, right? One character will have a 21 pep mark. Like, for example, the last event, I had one pep mark and I transposed it, so I had a transposed 17-star Sweetwater on my buck, but I got another pep mark, and I was like, okay, well, how do I go past this? Do I start doing daily black bean to try to get a 20-star for that, or do I do Commercy, try to get a 21, because you kind of have to do 21, right, to surpass the flame advantage and the set bonus of the black bean mark, or with this extra pup mark that I have, to just try to tap that, and it was on event, and I was like, well, fuck it, I'm not going to do another transpose, so I'll just tap this one, and that one went to 21, so now that's my mark, and then the transposed one is just, hope you had a great time, you were in the recycling bin, I guess, and then you just, you kind of move on. But if it had boomed, then I probably would have just been like, okay, well, I guess back to Commercy for me, and then that's something just to put on the list. Because Richard has this one, and he uses this with and he keeps that for all the stats, but this gives me anxiety. This is just too much information.
That's way too much.
You could do this for 14 characters, and it looks cool, but and I'm sure it works really well for some people, but for me, this is too much.
Yeah, and I think that's why I also have the grid of the gear, and then also the different columns for what's my CRA at, what's my ABSO, and I think that standardizing is my way of just not being overwhelmed and overthinking it.
Yeah. Nodes, some of that stuff is in there. Yeah, so I don't know if this idea helps you a little bit, like the categories, to break it up a little bit like that, to have true main, side characters, and then just everything that needs some attention, and then just basically just basket of deplorables down there. They're really cool in really helpful when they're trying to, give you a big Legion level. But other than that, or one character you're actively working on when you're doing like a monster parker, or you're trying to do what's it called, like the golden strawberry or something, because you're trying to get them all up to 220 or whatever is your next character. But even that, do you really have to write that down? Maybe if you look at your Legion board, it's just whatever is the next character, and you just organize them as as what you level next. So there's some things as well that don't really need to be on a grid like that, and you could add stuff, but then again, are you overcomplicating it and then taking away from the base, which is trying to get a good overview of what you have, right? Does it make it more usable or less usable?
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I do have that bad tendency of overthinking and overdoing, and especially looking at this now, putting down Golix on 4 people. It's like, well, yeah, like obviously you're going to go for Golix. Did I really need to write that down? Or get Arcanes for my marksman hero. Do I really need to write that down? So I think I do need to kind of clean this up. I mean, really a lot.
Every now and then you just go through it, but if you feel like it needs a lot of work, you could also just I would just like hide a column, and if you find yourself not even missing it, then that was probably a good decision. And then see if you even missed the information. If you do miss the information, then you bring it back, but then you know for sure that you do need it, So I think that'll help out. We are chatting a lot. Do you feel better about the main selection? Do you feel like you have some guidance there, some direction?
Yeah, to just kind of spark note it, I guess. It seems like it would be the little bit more efficient idea to I'm thinking focus on the Nightwalker, because it's kind of close to at least doing the higher tier bosses and getting to Liberation. So, maybe focusing on that, and then as I've started that process, start flexing more into either the Paladin or the Nihil to get, work that up as well. But at least your Nightwalker's working on that kind of time-gated process. And just don't necessarily worry about the event stuff and the extra stuff, kind of spending my primary time on there. And if I have a little extra time, maybe do some dailies on lower characters.
Yeah, and you will also you will get experience on the whole process, and you'll be networking as well with people and have connections that then later, if you want to do more, or you want to switch, or you want to add another character to the roster in terms of the Liberation, you already have a connection with some people that you can start asking for it then, because a lot of it is also kind of like knowing the right people, and getting your foot in the door the first time can be tricky, to find those first parties. Like if you're doing Lucid Hard Will, you could probably just join some random parties, but the harder the boss gets, the more coordinated you have to be to give yourself a decent chance to actually kill the boss, and to actually get a good chance of progressing. So, it's just a good idea to get started with that, and then just so you can use that experience for later. You don't make the same mistakes anymore. You know where to not waste your time and everything, stuff like that.
Sure. I think that definitely clears up at least the main question. I guess double entendre main question. But that was really the number one thing that I think I needed to solve.
I guess we could maybe go through some of the smaller questions here, because I see there's quite a big list.
I forgot I wrote all. Yeah, this was more of I just tossed a bunch of questions down. I forgot I had this tab. Are
these still all relevant, or can I go off of these here?
I think the ones I put on the template are the more ones to definitely focus on. Sure. Everything else, is like little just questions like, is Dawn boss set worth it? It's like, well, that's only going to really matter on my main. That's a smaller question to answer than the other ones.
Yeah.
Like my Legion artifact best combination thing. Like that's kind of it's fine.
Well, we'll do these first, and then we'll see if we have some extra time, and then we can circle back maybe.
Okay. Because I think a lot of these will really be really quick, or we can just skip some.
Yeah. So we did that. Which class have better functional level 1 Hexa masteries? There are definitely differences in there. But what I do is I just if I get to 260, then I know I'm also going to unlock 6, and I know I'm also going to get at least the 2 masteries unlocked, because it just feels cleaner to me that way. There's a lot of damage in there, but there's definitely some classes, because I think masteries is probably just baseline to unlock those two, but it's probably something that's the more relevant question, I think, is are there classes where it's also worth it to unlock more boost nodes, or which ones are those, or 1 or 2 or something, but that might be just actually like a case-by-case basis. Just check like the class Discord and kind of like see what people say there, because like I said, like I have a few characters that have way beyond that point, and then a few characters that have just like scratching the surface of 6 job, and then I just kind of like wing it. But those characters are so funded that, you know, if I don't super min-max what I unlock in the mastery, it's not that big of a deal for my account. But the masteries I see as pretty much universally like super important, just because it's like augmented effects, bigger hitboxes, and extra bonus damage to multiple skills in one. So that those always feel like a good package deal to me, and those feel like kind of like a brain dead thing. Like that's really on top of the origin. That's like cashing in on getting 6 job. But when it comes to the boost notes, that becomes much more character specific, and maybe role specific as well. Like the paladin, right? Maybe you go for that boost of the party member. Maybe you prioritize that. Oh my god, I just realized I put a beer in the freezer again and I forgot to take it out again. I do this every time. I'm gonna take it out real quick before it explodes.
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
Hopefully it's good beer. Chat, guess the beer.
Just gonna take it out after I made my food, and I completely forgot about it. God damn it. Well, the top of the lid wasn't completely dented in, like it was gonna blow any second, like the last one. So maybe it's not too bad. What we're talking about, yeah, Hexa. So I think that's more of a case-by-case basis. The problem for me with Hexa is that there's just so many different classes, and knowing exactly for every character which Hexas are exactly better, I would probably just like look at the class Discord for that myself. Yeah.
Or I think that the way I was kind of looking at it was, if I'm going to make a boss mule, the ideal is to get it to 260, in which case you're going to unlock the masteries anyway. Like you did all that work to get it to 260, unlock level 1 masteries.
Right.
And then it was kind of, is there someone that has a better functional level 1? Because maybe for my, say, next Hyperburn, I'm deciding between my Wind Archer and my Pathfinder. And the Pathfinder, the 2 masteries are the, was it Deluge and I forget the other one, not Torrent. Cardinal. So it's like, oh, that might have better functional, but it's like but I guess, you know, the earlier conversation of talking about where I'm going to focus on the main, I guess that question kind of becomes a little bit irrelevant. Because that question, I think, is more talking about future mules, and that, oh, well, I could do the Wind Archer, but the Pathfinder would be a little bit more, you know, maybe 10% more functional kind of damage that you'd have an easier time and blah, blah, blah. So maybe that question comes a little bit irrelevant.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, some of these things is just like you just do one character at a time. Like trying to get Helix, you know, trying to get like superior Gollux on everything. It might just be too much, but if you have a limited time, it's better to just do Helix every day on one character until that character is done and then move on to the next one, rather than to do Helix on all 4, but like every 4 days, because then all of them are going to take 4x the time, right, to get to full superior. But if you do one, then at least you'll be able to get that character done in after a fourth of the time, and then scale up from that and start making more money while you start working on a second one, right? There's a better downstream effects, basically, of at least finishing something before moving on to the next one. So if you do find yourself just find whichever one do you think you're going to like bossing on the most, whichever one do you gravitate towards, and just prioritize that one if you have a limited time, and then the other ones, it'll happen, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing with this, you know, just unlock it all on one character, move on to the next. That's what I did, yeah. General funding strategy for mules, enough, smart, worth, it, if. So yeah, so you're primarily talking about this one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that seemed...
Yeah, so I think if you're going past Lotus and Daemon eventually, I'll probably just skip Reinforced. You will still level up these two, right? And still Starforce these two because they become fodder for the next one. So those don't change. But Pennant-wise, usually I have like Dominator... well, I don't even have a Dominator. A lot of times I'll just have like Chaos Horntail and Mechanator, for example. Because you're really just looking at the potential... and you're looking at the flame on it. So that's about the same as this. But the pieces are much easier to get. And ring-wise, yeah, you probably want to have like one event ring per character or something, just to kind of like fill in a slot. So if there's ever a bunch of event rings you can pick, just put one on a character that you know might be a boss mule in the future, and then you'll always have at least one of those slots already taken care of. Slime usually comes in quite a bit later because you cannot rely on this guy dropping from normal slime, so you're probably going to have to do like some sea slime exchanges before you can really realistically get a slime ring. Or you could be my Adele, who got 6 of them from normal in like the span of 4 months or so.
Wow.
But that's not really realistic. So 1 or 2 event rings is probably fine. A kind of treasure, yeah, and then whatever you can fit in that 4th slot. Yeah. I like keeping Meisters. When you have a lot of resources, you can use them. But I like keeping Meisters as much as materials as possible, because then it's still transferable, right? And then if any character gets really unlucky with kind of treasures, you can still brute force make Meisters, and then fill up the slot instead, and make the fodder for the superior with the Meisters. And hopefully that not too many characters need that. If they're boss mules, they probably will never need that, because, you know, you'll just wait longer until you have the kind of treasures. And that's kind of the thing with main characters. You'll want the Star Force for all the items to pretty much always be like within 2 Star Force of each other, right? Otherwise, you're probably going into inefficiency. But with boss mules, you could have 3 or 4 or even 5 stars apart from things, because maybe you get a Black Bean Mark and you have 1. And you get a second one, and it doesn't go to 19, and you're still stuck on 17. But maybe your CRA is already going 21, or maybe going for 22, because you have the backups there. And then, but just because you have 22 here, it doesn't mean everything else has to go 22, right? It's always about like, what can your account support, and can you do the bosses in the allocated time that you want to? You want to be able to do them, right? And can it bring in the money? Because you want to do minimum level funding, quote unquote, for your character, because you want to make as much money with the character as possible.
Right.
But yeah, just be aware of the...
definitely for just for Lotus and maybe Slime and below. Like my Mihil, I figured, I'm probably going to be going higher, so I got Superior on him.
Yeah.
So this is definitely for like...
Okay.
Just Lotus and below, and then over time it's like, you know, if I'm doing Lotus and Slime and below, eventually I'll get all the things that those can go up to 21 and everything.
Okay. Yeah, but in general, I think the plan's pretty good. It's worth to run Culvert on mules at start of bossing for my account guild. How easy is it to get 3G skills at 15?
Yeah, before I really... it was a couple months ago, I kind of just made a guild for myself because I didn't fully understand how they worked. And then I just kind of... I know they made some changes where it was easier to get skill points.
Yeah.
So I kind of just left it instead of trying to join a guild for all 10, 11, 12 of my mules and try to keep up with all of them. So it was... I didn't know if I just run Culvert on all my mules, and I know it kind of depends what you get, but is there like a minimum score that if I just start my bossing run with Culvert, I'm contributing that I'll get enough skill points? I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird question.
Yeah, if you want to max out 3 at 15, then you need to get at least 60,000 Culvert score, and then max out the other 2 with 10 points each.
Oh yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, 60,000 gets you there. Yeah, so if you have 12 characters, and you run at least like 5k on each one. So
which is a lot.
Usually what people do is they just run random boss mule guilds that have like as long as you log in and you are active and you do either flag or culvert or something, then you get access to the G skill, something like that. Sometimes it's just, you know, they already have some strong people in there who already do it, so you could just randomly join and they just like kick people if they don't play for more than 10 days or something like that. And you just kind of like spread them around. That's a strategy that a lot of people do. What we did with our guild, with our main guild, is we made a boss mule guild as well, so people put all of their boss mules in the same guild, and then I, you know, go through there every once in a while, kick the inactive ones. But then, you know, as you can imagine, if you have 20 active people with all 10 boss mules, that's already a whole guild full, right? So you have to make multiple boss mules at that point. But I guess you can inquire with your guild where you're at, right? If they have a boss mule guild, or if they want to make one and then throw some characters in there. So it's not too bad. Sure. Yeah, 15-15 is already really good too. That gets you pretty far. And flag race is minimum points 300, and it's only 1 lap, so that is also pretty fast if you wanna, if you're trying to keep your own solo guild. But yeah, it'll be a lot of extra work to take on, of course, on top of just joining a bunch of random guilds and looking for a new one every once in a while.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So is there anything specific, mobbing, bossing, anything you think specifically for me to look at here for your character in terms of general progress, just mainly the equips, or are you good on all the base stats?
I think I'm pretty good about how generally everything works.
You have something here about like hyperstats or something, right, on the other sheet. Is that cleared up already, or did you want to double check that?
Oh, I mean, it was. I guess it was just a quick question of like, does it make sense to do? I think I have most of my stats as, you know, doing 10 across the board, and then do 1 at a time up to 11, 1 at a time up to 12. Mm-hmm. Is that just like the general way to go about hyperstats? Because I don't really, you know, I don't know if there's a point to max like crit damage to 15, because the points spent from 12 to 15 could be used to get the other stats from 10 to 11.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that at a certain point, probably once you start getting like past 11, 12, that's when, if you want to be able to do it optimally, you'll have to get some kind of calculator that you just put all the variables in, and it'll just tell you what gives you the most final damage, right? Because it all comes down to how much critical damage do you have, how much damage percent boss damage. That can go into a bunch of other things, like the Legion artifact that you mentioned before, like what is the best, you know, the best thing for that. But do you hit boss familiars and stuff like that, right? That'll just throw you off balance a little bit. Some classes have a lot higher critical damage by themselves, some have more percentage damage by themselves, and then the balance will shift a little bit towards that. To an extent, it also shifts up until you hit 9k Legion, but you're already past that, so that's not really applicable to you at this point. Generally, like you said, though, I do it, although most of the time, IED doesn't really go past 10 or 11. It kind of like stops there, and then the other ones go past it, and you always prioritize boss damage over damage, you know, for the leveling up, because it's 4 versus 3%. But critical damage tends to be about a quarter of your total damage. So the fact that it's 1 to 4 seems weird, but it levels at about the same speed. For some, I think for more classes than not, the critical damage is actually a little bit more important than 4 damage, but it's pretty close. So if you do critical damage first, then damage, then boss damage, then regular damage, and then kind of like in that order, that's probably fine. You have the built-in ID in your kit, so you probably keep your ID at like 10 to 11. 10 is probably fine, maybe up to 11 once you can shoot the grandest bosses, right? Because they've got the 380 PDR versus 300. But you'll be in full 6-man parties. A bunch of other people probably going to have boss debuffs as well, so your ID should be okay there. So like as a general order, yeah. And when you say all of them, do you include attack in that? Because attack is usually, for me, that's a little bit lower. Usually that stays like level 7 or 8 at the highest.
I mean, I kind of generally put them all as 10. Find it here. You know, like for the boss page, I just do crit damage, IAD, damage, boss damage, and then whatever I can't upgrade from there, I'll just throw into attack. Is typically what I do.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, until eventually maybe you have so many points in attack that if you took them out again, you might be able to level the other ones, right? So that's usually
exactly.
why I hover around level 6, 7, 8 in attack usually. But when you get very far into the game and like, oh, the next point costs 180 points or whatever stupid number, then it's like, well, yeah, I might as well put some in attack because by the time you get that, that's going to be months from now, right? So
Right.
that makes sense. Matrix looks good. Yeah, more hard will. We'll level that up.
Yeah, I haven't really run Will enough. And this is something that I haven't, I think because I haven't fully committed to it as a main, I haven't put the EXP nose stones in the rest of the Urda Fountain or the Will skill or
yeah.
whatever else.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know about the will skill.
I was super excited to do the 6 job when it was first coming out, so I put all of the nodes into the skill nodes to make them all 25.
Oh, into the okay. So you XP noded into the boost nodes, so you could.
For the skill node, yeah, because I remember it was I did
the skills
whole,
or the boosts.
The skills.
Okay,
like
yeah.
Like
to unlock the hexa boost nodes. Yeah.
Because when it was 6 job was coming out, I did the whole I think it was what you get to 258 and 86% or something like that. And then when the EXP curve got reduced or something, it right to 260.
Right, yeah, true. Yeah, if you were at a certain percentage, you would level and go back up to 99 or like 100%, and you just hit one more thing and you'd level again.
I think I had a green snail. That was my that was my level 260.
Beautiful. Yeah, nice. Yeah, this Matrix is already looking pretty good for up to that. But yeah, if you do full 6-minute BA, you check for your average damage. So it's going to be like on a level 275 target, right? And you can do your damage per second is at least at like around 75 bill per second probably. That's like a good indicator typically that you can start running BM. Again, provided the closer you are to level 275 there, the better for that. If you're a bit off, you might want to aim higher. And that usually coincides if you're like a decent burst class around the same time that you can like barely do hard lucid solo. Might not be like a super easy run, might not be super clean, but you should probably be like around that same level. That's usually a good benchmark. Not only because that's not just standing in a town and hitting a target that's just sitting there, right? But it's also dodging attacks and timing your buffs while also dodging attacks and keeping up with your bind timers for your burst and cleansing, and like there's a bunch of stuff going on at the same time. So I think that's also just like good practice if you can go through that you feel like more ready, because Black Mage, phase 1 is just a matter of a good timing on a bind and burst. Phase 2 feels like there's way too much going on until you practice it like 3 or 4 times, and then it actually becomes pretty easy. But phase 3 can be very overwhelming in the beginning, and the more you're already dialed in on taking a lot of visual input from a lot of different things happening and kind of being able to see like, this is priority, this is what I need to look out for, and this is not that important, and I can kind of just ignore this. That process, the more bosses you've done that with, the better that'll help you, the faster you will be able to learn Black Mage with that.
Yeah, I heard you mention that. I don't know, I can't remember if it was in your last coaching session, you mentioned that if you could do solo hard lucid, and kind of basically just the same thing you explained, to me that actually makes a lot more sense than standing in a tower and getting a number where there's nothing interrupting you, nothing stunning you while you're trying to buff up, not demon teleporting away from you, and it's like, hey, I can't burst anymore because my shadow partners, whatever it is, or dark servant, whatever is all the way over
servant,
here. Yeah. So I definitely think that's a really good point to say that, if you can solo hard lucid, especially how much she moves around in P2.
Yeah, that's the next level stuff. Like when you're sometimes then soloing becomes easier, less of an RNG thing than doing it with a duo or with a party, because you can control where the boss goes, right? Like you get to, if they teleport, they teleport to a person, so they're going to be teleporting to you most of the time. But sometimes bosses just randomly teleport away, but most of the time they teleport to whoever they have aggro. And if you're solo, it's more reliable. This is especially once you get into normal Vihila, hard Vihila. She can actually become quite a bit harder with like a group of 6 people who just want to sit in the corner and burst the boss. And if you don't burst it in one go, everyone starts jumping around all over the place and becomes like a really big clown show really quickly. Whereas if you can find like a party of 2 or 3 people who can like stick together and do the mechanics and can communicate, you can start learning what the boss does and how it acts way cleaner, because there's a direct line of, if you do this, then that happens. If you do this, then that happens. But if everyone jumps all over the place, it's like who did what? Why did that? Why did that happen in that way? It's really hard to connect the dots at that point. Okay, I see your link skills here. I assume that those are mostly Gucci. I guess I personally don't use the cane on mobbing, but I don't know what else you would.
Oh yeah, that was. I don't really know what else to put except for like I already have high auto in there.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, the Explorer Pirates or I can't remember the other one that just gives like some
Pirates,
stat and...
Cygnus,
Yes.
Xenon maybe the all stat percent.
Oh okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there was
pretty
one that was optimal, and it's like, look, I'm kind of one-shotting anything anyway, so
yeah, they're a bunch of close
for the mobbing.
If you want to do like long term, like for monster collection, you can try the archer one. Yeah, the whatever the last slot is or last 2 slots are, yeah, not that big.
Yeah,
Cygnus?
I mean, I have it where
Cygnus,
I one shot, and then when I one shot, I maximize my XP. So, you know.
Yeah, with the bravado, yeah, that helps. Legion grid. If you're over crit, you can start going into buff duration.
Yeah, I planned on doing a 3rd page that was going into buff duration for if I did go into like Kaiser, or I don't know what other classes might use buff duration that's not a mage, but
well, yeah, it's mostly Kaiser, but like other classes all use buff duration now as well because of terms and condition on the 60-second, and just you stretch the duration of that as well. So it will actually have some damage implication for all characters, rather than if you have a setup with 20 extra critical rate on a like a Nightwalker, like on a non-archer basically for vicious shot, right? For vicious shot, it's still the critical rate is better, but you'll have to kind of see what your current duration already is of terms and conditions, and if you really have any kind of like juicy damage left after that. If you do, because I believe your Dark Servant is a very long duration, right? So it's a pretty drawn out burst. Might be a good idea
once
to
you max it on Hexa, I think it gets up. It's like 100% uptime. It's a full minute.
Yeah, it stays for quite a while. I don't know about 100%, but yeah, it's definitely stays quite a while. And spears, spears also last a while. So I think just the longer your terms and conditions last, the better it'll be for you, because it's just extra time with 60% damage, 60% damage up. So I think I'm not sure 100% when it comes to like main stat and attack versus buff duration, but these are different setups that you could build if you do a BA and then kind of just try multiple and see if there's any real difference between the two, right? If it's somewhat, if you can ignore the difference, then it's whatever. But once you get like a special strong stat ring, I guess I didn't check yet, but if you have a roar or weapon jump, right, that'll help a lot with your 3-minute burst as well.
I got no rings, but I'm not doing I'm not doing high enough bosses that I'm getting enough ring box.
You'd have to get pretty lucky on
on
like a red box or a green box somewhere. It had like a roar 3 from a green box is not exactly what are the odds here? The odds are pretty terrible, right? Roar 4.
I'm sure a percent of a percent of a percent.
A roar 3 from a green jade box is 0.23%. Yeah, so 1 in every 40 boxes. No, sorry, 400 boxes or so. Yeah. Yeah, I got a roar 4 from a red box on my cannoneer pretty early, which is a 0.9%. So that we're like, it's 0.9.
I had somebody help me with.
It's possible.
I duoed Sea Gloom with somebody who was like showing me how to just go run through. He let me take whatever I wanted from the box, and it dropped stellar earrings. But it's like that's probably just the luckiest I've had in terms of a drop right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the chaos bosses, they have pretty good drop rate on that stuff. I guess you had that mentioned as well, right? If the Daybreak set is worth it. Typically, the earrings are maybe as a Nightwalker they are, but the earrings I think are the worst in like positioning because of the other earrings that exist. The pendant is good positioning because you have 2 slots, so there's always some utility for that. Both as fodder and as actual utility with the set bonus with the ring. And the ring is in good position because it's just higher level than all the other rings, and it gets it, you can get to a good drop rate from Sea Gloom pretty quickly, so it makes it more reasonable to use that as a perma ring. But the earrings are probably the most awkward, I think. And I know some people do use it and they Star Force it to have higher Star Force drop in Meso gear. Specifically if you're a particle killer like you are, right? You want the bats to fly around and be able to kill in full drop rate as early as possible. So I'm pretty sure Nightwalkers do something with the earrings and eventually do make them. But again, this is a matter of, get to an area. Can you train there? No. Okay, can you get the very best rates with drop a Meso gear? No. If you go down one area, can you do it there? And is it like still comparable rates? Yeah. Okay, are you okay with, settling a little bit lower on EXP? Or are you going to invest a whole lot of money? So a few levels earlier, you can already go to the higher levels just so you can min-max the EXP. That's basically the question that you have to like ask there and answer for yourself, where people will be overtuning their damage a lot. And again, this is like Black Mage, like if you're funding for, you don't want to fund for like the 8th month of Black Mage, you want to fund for the 1st month of Black Mage, but that means that by the time you get to the 8th month, you're going to be way stronger than you were in the beginning. And kind of like with the new areas is like, are you going to fund yourself so that day 1 you go into the new area and get the very best rates? Or are you okay with staying for like another level or 2, maybe at the other area where you were, make more money, get more fragments, all that stuff, so that then you could just not ergonomically, not biologically, more smoothly, whatever the word is I'm looking for. I've used this word a lot before. Someone in chat will say it. You can move on to the next one, but what will also happen then is that eventually, hopefully, you find some pitch items, and then as you get pitch items, some of your damaging items will become obsolete, and then you can always redo those for drop in Meso and get strong drop in Meso pieces that way. Organically, that was the word I was looking for.
Gotcha.
So that's always something to fall back on. I guess here I can see your equips. Everything has 3 lines that do something. Emblem is always a little awkward to get to 3-line, but there should be, within this update, hopefully the NPC should start selling emblems for everyone. So you can start rolling one on the side without having to lose your current one or without having to use black cubes, right? So that should make it more realistic to hit those nice numbers. Same thing can be done with the secondary, but you have, somewhat of an extra boost here. Honestly, I like this WSC a lot. I wouldn't do much on that. I guess the flame isn't the best on the weapon, but it's also not bad, so I would have to see more stuff to see if I would tell you to do something with that. Drop and Meso accessory set. Okay, we used to love double Meso, but not as much anymore.
Yeah, I just have full, was it 10 item, 5 Meso,
or
whatever the full amount is. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 Meso, 10 drop lines, right?
Yeah.
4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Wait, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Wait, I'm missing one. Missing one drop.
I have one.
7, 8, 9. You got your belt in here, but belt doesn't have drop. Is there?
Oh yeah, I put that in the wrong section.
Yeah, no worries. There was technically a belt with drop, so there is something to it. There was a fishing belt that could get like 3% drop, but there's one piece. There's one ring missing. 130% ring, maybe an old event ring or something.
I have a heroic Tenebris ring that has item drop in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or you have a damage ring that still has a line or something.
Oh, I think it's in the damage ring section, or I don't know if I included it or not. Well, my 4th ring is a event ring with 20% drop and 21% luck.
There you go. Yeah, and so that one is the hybrid right now. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and then when you get the special ring, then that one gets phased out and just becomes drop rate ring only.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Okay. Got 2 hats, one with cooldown and one with straight
Cooldown
up
for mobbing
damage.
and stat for bossing.
Mm-hmm. Am I to read it that you rolled a 27 and you were like, oh, that's really nice, but I really want cooldown, so I'm going to make another one? Or did it happen the other way around?
I think the -2 happened first, and then I made another one that was a damage one. I think it was kind of, I actually had 1 hat, and then it was whatever hits first, and I think it was the 2-second that hit first, and then I just made another 17-star hat that put it in damage, and then if my damage one turned out to be a -4 second, keep that, go to the -2, and make that my damage one.
Gotcha.
Was my plan, I think.
Yep. Makes sense. I'm not 100% on like late game and end game for the hats. If people do have 2, have you looked into that?
I have not. At least if I have, it was a while ago.
But yeah, before you decide to like 22 and like full on min max the potential, when you get to that point, be good to double check on kind of what is the meta at that point. Do people just go for 3-second cooldown for the mobbing? Is that significantly better, or 4-second? And how much better is that? Does that warrant the price tag? And 3-line statting a hat will be very far down the road because hat's potential is really bad. So
yeah,
you have plenty of time before you get to that point. Top, same thing. Pants are a little bit better on potential, not as bad. Nice xenon shoulder. Yeah, but you're you're still working on some of the flames here, I take it. On the arcanes.
I've been putting whatever free black flames I get on it, just because I've been focusing on all the things that it's like, okay, flaming my gear isn't as much of a priority.
I would, if you get black flames, I would put those on your weapon.
Yeah.
In terms of the
I
progress.
The gear that needs it the most.
Yeah, and if you get like regular flames, I would just pick up one item that just has the worst flame. Let's see, this one is 80, this one's over 100, this one is like 90. So the shoe is the worst flame from your arcanes. I would just, every flame you have that you get, I would just throw on here. And even if it goes to like a very shit flame, that's just whatever. It's just going to be one item with one bad flame. You're not going to notice that across the board. Until this flame gets better than one of the other 2, and then you just fuck up that flame. And you keep fucking it up until it hits something nice. And then you go to the next one. Until they're all like over 125, like probably like at this point, you probably want to work towards like 130-ish flame score on all of them or something. And it's totally fine to just have an active project on one item like that and just mess it up. By the way, I don't think your cup is in here. What is the flame on there?
Oh yeah, I forgot to include that.
Is it around the same as your
48
CRA?
luck and 4%.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as long as that's somewhat on par with where the CRA is at, then we're chilling. Yeah, so Slime Rings, we should get backups. 21 Dominator, this is very nice. Hopefully you didn't have too many booms for that.
I actually didn't. I had a couple backups, and I used the Dom Pendant for itself and for the Superior. And very for, nice. I think, a second. No, not a second. But no, my Dom Pendants for here actually went very well.
That's nice, yeah. Because those can be tricky to replace. Yeah, it's just good to have a... I guess from here, for every piece, you can kind of have a different strategy, right? Like Black Bean Mark is going to be either an eye patch and then you 21 or 22, whatever you feel more comfortable with. For earrings, there's a few different strategies. There's I'm just going to get wait until I have 7 backups and just try to tap a whole bunch. Or I'm just going to make one on the side to 22. If it goes, I'll turn this into drop a mezzo and then just use the other one. Or if I get another 122, I'll just try to tap this one as well, see if it goes up. If it doesn't work on the potential on the other one. It all has to do with risk aversion and how many backups you have. But you have a bunch of, Twilight Mark, if you have 1, do you try to go for 19? If you have a 19, how many backups do you get then? Or do you then just tap on another one, 22 or nothing, or 21 or 22 before you switch over? That might have to do with how good the potential is at that point, right? Is it already 3-line? Maybe you're more inclined to keep your existing one. If you only have 2 lines, it's very easy to replace. So maybe you lower the risk and lower the cost on using another one on the side instead. And then if it makes a big enough jump on Star Force, then maybe you just, ditch this one. Because as weird as it is, and that's the same thing with CRA. If you're going from, like, let's say unique 12%, 21 CRA, and you're trying to go for 22, if you do that on a boss mule, and by the time that becomes an upgrade that's good for a boss mule, it might be the best to just open like 300 pieces of CRA and see if you hit a better flame. Because the value of the flame could be more than the whole piece that you're trying to hang on to and trying to 22, Or if you're going like 19 to 21. At that point, you're just dealing with completely different numbers. And as much as it feels like, but this is the CRA gear I have on this character, this is so valuable, in the grand scheme of things, it could be worth like 11 bill or something. And the expected cost for Star Forcing up there could be like 20. So it doesn't even make sense to hold on to something at that point just because you've had it for so long. If anything, because you've had it for so long, it's already, earned back its weight in gold. So it would be better at that point to let it go. So as long as you keep for every character, keep like an open mind based on like the backups and what you want to do, and what you can do, right? What is, like, are you really realistically pushing Superior Ring past 21? Probably very, very far into the game, maybe never, right? Your Guardian Angel Ring is going to catch up to 21 way before you do that, probably. Kind of Treasure is probably going to go to 22. CRA is probably going to be 22. Your whole Arcanes are probably going to be 19, all before that, because this is just a bunch of helixing, plus some bootleg backup, potentially losing 21. Like, what are you going to do there, right? Like, it's just an awkward situation. So you want to... Those awkward situations you just want to push back. You don't have to get to that one. There's a bunch more straightforward ones that you can get to, right? And I see you already have another 21 superior. We rolled double mezzo and luck on that. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, I felt it was hard to just let that one go. So I was like, let me just see if I can make another one, and I made another one. Like, all right, I guess I'm keeping it.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell by Star Force on the kind of treasure as well that was probably your damage ring at some point, and then you had to make another one, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I
forget how all this happened, but it was kind of I had a bunch
of backups.
Don't remember?
Like,
yeah, sure.
You don't remember exactly every item and what cube you used and when? Come on, man.
Absolutely not. Oh, I see.
You keep a captain's log. Today,
I see you go, oh, I spent this much meso on this item. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I spent money. It got here.
Yeah, last item I didn't keep track. Last event I didn't keep track on the gains, but I did do like a gains form before. I was always keeping track of the souls that I was using on like how many attempts I did and what the odds were to kind of like see if I was lucky or unlucky. And it usually alternates. It's usually like one lucky event and then a really unlucky event and then a lucky event and then an unlucky. It really just alternates basically. And then also for Star Forcing, I was doing this just to kind of keep track of like the week before an event. I just feel like, okay, which characters can I do something on? What do I want to do? And then kind of like map out what it will most likely cost. And then use that as an indicator of, am I trying to take on too many projects? And do I need to push some of them down? Or is this something I could mathematically manage, right? And as you do some characters, prioritize the characters as their goals would be. But yeah, you can see how similar the costs were. Like this event, I spent 160. This one 146. This one 138. This one 138. Like almost just 300 mil difference between the two. And then this one I spent 80. But this last one I spent like 180, I think. So it just. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I can do, but it's always you always go back to the question like, do you want it or do you need it, and what do you need it for? Is it really going to open up a whole lot? Like I have 6 of all the backups of arcanes on my marksman, and he has 21 arcanes. I could probably go for 22 arcanes, but how much is that potentially going to cost me, and what does that open up for me? It doesn't open any new thing up for me, right? So what's even better is just waiting even longer until you need it, because then you have even more backups, and then you have even higher guarantee that you will be able to do it, right? And you'll be able to make more efficient choices down the road. So there's nothing really lost there. There's still gains being made in terms of backups, and that gives you value on your account as well.
Sure.
Is Kaisarium worth it? It's mostly, I would say, it's like an anvil cosmetic item. It's too risky.
Is it too late to tell you I have a 21 Kaisarium on my Dawn Warrior?
A 21 is fine, and it's probably about as strong, or maybe a little bit stronger than like a 17 Arcane. But if eventually you're gonna go past that, then yeah, the Arcane would straight up be better. But yeah, if you want a 22, you want to transfer, and you want to use a Kaisarium, that's fine. The problem is just like getting a good flame on it is pretty damn tricky because of the,
my original plan and goal was like, oh, if I ever got one, and then I got one, and it's like, well, good thing I on the last Shining Star Force, I saved a bunch of two-handed swords and 22 started. And then it was like, all right, I guess whenever I get a Kaisarium, and then it dropped. So now I have one. And then it's like, I kind of want to keep it because of how rare it is, and I got it. But then, is it any better? So your answer was perfect. So if I ever go past, get the Arcane and anvil it, because, I finally got one.
Yeah, and well, it looks pretty cool. I think probably when you're holding onto it, it could be a little bigger. Because I think with how much bigger they've made all of the things in the game, it's almost like not standing out as much anymore. I think it could do with like a little bit of a scale up, but I mean, it looks cool as hell, of course. We had Zaiku in the chat who was maining a Kaiser forever, who was looking for one. It took him years to get one. I think he finally got one somewhere. Was it last November somewhere? Zaiku finally got his, but yeah, I'll have some characters with 3 or 4, but even that, like, characters that have run hundreds of these bosses, like actually like 300-400 HMax will only have like 3 or 4 of them, so it is exceedingly rare. Yeah. Oh, it was last week. Oh, it was that. Yeah.
One's on my Nightwalker, one's on my Night Lord, and the one on my Dawn Warrior. But I wanted to get my Kaiser as a boss meal because that way I run it each week, so I at least have the chance. I'm beating him, so he doesn't. I have the chance of getting it. But
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, Zagor was doing the extra cleanse, right? So if you do stuff in Krichas, you can get a weekly reset ticket there. You can buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was doing all of that stuff as well, and still just took forever to get it.
Well, happy for him for getting it.
Yeah. Congrats again, Zaikur. You did Krichas for 4 months. Yeah, Jesus.
Woo.
Large drop, regular meso, and empty.
Oh yeah, the empty one's just for ranking up. Yeah. To get uniques.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, don't keep them empty because apparently that crashes you now.
Oh.
If you have 3 slots available and you don't have 3 FAMs in there, apparently you crash now. So good times.
Interesting.
Yeah, beautiful bugs coming into the game. Second large HP MP nearby allies, large HP MP, boss 30 and small HP. Oh, that's very nice. That's a good setup.
I like that one.
And
then I might have another set that does, as I get more actual boss damage ones, I'll have another set just for the boss damage ones for fights that don't necessarily need healing as much. But obviously for Vihila and Will, keeping the HP.
Yeah, as you get better with Will as well, I think it'll be a good challenge to also play without him, because you won't be in P2 for as long, and it'll also help you just use your mobility instead of just like brain rotting yourself
just
through it, and tanking it. Yeah, because in other boss fights,
a nice walker.
Exactly, you could do those small dashes and small adjustments. To make sure, and again, if you're soloing, it's way more reliable because you're always aggro, so he's always attacking you regardless of what way he's facing and where he's attacking. It's always going to be attacking you. Just so as soon as you see him attack, right before he hits, you just dash to the other side of him, and then you attack from there. And if he starts attacking again, you dash behind him again, and you attack from there. And that way, you really that's going to become second nature. And then all you really have to do is kind of like look out for the pattern of the legs, but you get hit every now and then. You'll have your moonlight. You can heal back up. You can up jump sometimes. The up jumping is very powerful there as well because his attacks roll pretty low vertically. And I think that'll just be good practice. And at that time, you'll also be doing that boss. You'll die like once or twice or 3 or 4 times, but you'll still be fine because you still have 10 life, so you're never in really any danger. And I think that's good to practice as well for the positioning on Vihila, because you want to keep her in the middle of the map. You want to be able to dash around her and not go too far from her, and also not get super close on top of her because her hitboxes are pretty big. So that's good practice for Fiala as well, because you'll need more healing there than you will need in hard will, you know. Backups. Oh yeah, you don't have the. Yeah, you didn't. You
I don't
didn't
really have any
well.
backups.
We talked about that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in general, yeah, for backups, if you do have money and you get any arcane boxes, if there's an event within a week, right, try to keep the box as a box. That way you can use it as a universal backup, just as a tip. You might have already known that if you saw some of my sessions, I guess for other people who are watching as well. But yeah, don't try to rush towards something just because you want it. You know, make sure you have a proper risk assessment of how costly it's going to be and how many backups you have to see if it's even reasonable. Did you have anything in mind for like end of December on upgrades to make? You said you don't have that many backups now. Did you kind of already like blow up most of the stuff, or they went, you know, hopefully the last one?
Yeah, anything that I would make as far as a Star Force upgrade, like I don't have, looking at it right now, I don't have a single backup for anything. I have A Meister rings at 17. I have one Twilight mark. The Black Beam marks I don't need. I have a couple superior. I have 2 superior earrings, 1 belt, 1 Dom pendant. So I don't really have too much in terms of
that's all too high risk
for that.
Yeah, so I feel like at this point, unless you get significantly more drops before the end, you can probably start looking towards the Mihail and the Paladin, and start thinking if they, you know, can get something going on some items there to start setting them up for the future. Because that's always the thing, right? If you have a lot of characters, it's like, okay, character this one, okay, I want to make gains on this one, or I need to make gains on this one. Oh, I have no backups, cool, next. Like it's that simple, right? You don't have to start squeezing out like, shit, what if I do, you know, what if I start what if I maybe make 22 Abzos instead, you know, what if I start getting fodder for the next month? And you don't have to like squeeze out damage like that, because you'll always have something to work on, and you can always pick and choose exactly what is the best rates for you, and the RNG of the game will just show you what makes the most sense for you to work on, and what makes the most sense to just keep hands off and check again later.
Yeah.
All right. Did we get to most of these?
More than likely. I mean, there's not much else I have for questions. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Was 19 instead of 20 the miles of 20 the miles
after
17?
Yes. I never understood that, because I hear a lot is like, oh, get to 19 and then get to 21. Like, why not, if you're at 19, click that button only the one more time that you need to, because it never goes below.
Because it never booms, right? Well, that's the thing. It's because it can go below, right? And it goes all the way back down. Basically, if you just look at the cost per star, 19 to 20 is just way more expensive than even 20 to 21. So if you're gonna go 20, you've already paid more than half, way more than half on the way of 19 to 21. So then it makes sense to just push to 21. So if 20 means also go for 21, then now you have to see them as a unit, and it makes more sense to stop at 19. The reason is just also that 19 on average, I think still the average booms from 17 to 19 is under 1. So you can very realistically see 19. Past 19 is where the boom chance goes way up. And because for every single 20 you want to make, you probably have to make like 4 19s, right? So, like mathematically at least, right? Because of the 30% chance. So that just means that it gets way riskier past that. But 17 to 19 is a significant gain in terms of stat and weapon attack. And because even if it's like 15 attack and 15 stat per flame, per star, that's like 30-30. You do that on 10 items, that's 300 stat, 300 attack. That's huge, right? And then with that, you can do a lot harder bosses, you can get more backups, you can save those up over a longer period of time, and then it's less risky to go from 19 to 21, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense then.
Yep. Yeah, because it seems so... Yeah, it's so close but so far away. And this will definitely be... Remember this when people are like 22 or nothing on pitched when you get them. you want to set yourself up so that 22 or nothing on pitch makes sense. So you want to make sure that the pieces that they're replacing are already at least 21. Then 22 or nothing pitch makes sense. But if the item you're trying to replace is only 17, 18, or 19, then 22 or nothing pitch does not make sense because then that's too risky. So you can use them, for example, with a Berserker with an eye patch. With an eye patch, you could do 21 or 22 or nothing, right? But if you got a Berserk now, you shouldn't do 22 or nothing because you have a 17 Twilight. So if you can 17 a Berserk, you can say, maybe I'll 19 a Twilight. You 19 a Twilight, okay, maybe I'll 19 a Berserk. You 19 a Berserk, oh, maybe I'll 21 a Twilight, right? And then whatever booms, you'll have the other one, and then you still have an upgrade. And then the next one you get, you'll be able to push past the other one again and just go right back to where you left off. But with some other, so that'll make more sense in terms of the Star Force upgrading.
Okay, I think that's all my questions answered then for this page. Everything else is stuff I just threw down and figured I'll handle later.
Okay. Well, hopefully it was helpful for you. I hope that you get some more backups and then you can maybe make some upgrades. But if you do feel like you gotten into Liberation and you feel like you like the other characters more, just continue with the Liberation, and then at worst you'll have a very strong C10 Emule and a hard Lucid Will solo character, right? And it'll just make money for the other character down the road, and you can use it to exchange carry, and then you can speed up the process on a lot of your bossing mules as well, where you're like, oh, this bossing mule is actually really cool, I want to be able to do more with this one. You can immediately start trying to get arcanes on it by exchanging with someone, and if you want to do it that way, right, you don't have to, but you at least have the ability to tap into that. So it's just a good idea to push one through, to have that experience, and to have it to always fall back on. It's almost like going to college, right? It's like at least you have the degree. You can always, fall back on it, and you'll make some connections there. So, wow, actually, liberating a character in a MapleStory is actually exactly like getting a college degree. Chad, I just realized that. Wow, what an analogy. Okay, any last thoughts?
I don't think so. Sorry, I was super redundant in the beginning. I feel like it makes sense in the brain, but then verbalizing does not connect.
Yeah, we were circling a little bit. I was also like, wait, I feel like we're looping a little bit on getting through I was kind of sucked in a little bit into what your problem was with keeping an overview and keeping it neat. So it might be a good idea to just rigorously just kind of clean it up. And then just add as you need it, and bring it back up as you need it, and then it should be more clear in your head. Maybe also use different colors or lighter colors or something, make it less aggressive. Or I like to use the presets that they have for the what is it called, for the alternating colors, for this, because it just gives you a little bit more. Maybe this is not the right color, or it's not perfect. But I'm pretty bad at as well at I make this spreadsheets, but then making them palatable or making them useful. I have a bunch of different ones, and I try out different styles for everything just to make sure that it's that you enjoy using it. It's got to be useful. It's got to be purposeful.
Yeah, I think every time I want to go clean it up, I clean it up for a minute or two and then move on to something else. And either just do one sit down for the 10 minutes it'll take me, clean it all up, and be done. But the only thing I have left is I am required to do this, and this is my choice. I have to give a shout out to my wife because I have been watching these progressions for the longest time, and one day she goes, "Why don't you ever submit your name?" And I was like, "No, I guess I will." And then 3 months later, here I am.
There you go.
So I gotta give a shout out to her. She's so embarrassed right now.
Your better half. She made it happen.
She did. So can't thank her enough.
All right. That's a wholesome shout out. Okay. Best of luck. If you do have any follow-ups, you can always swing by whenever I'm streaming or hit me up on Discord, and I'll do my best to help you out.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate all your help, and sorry if I just apologize for all the confusion because my brain no worky.
No, we're good. All right, good luck, and I'll see you around.
All right, have a good night. Congrats on living your Adele.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
All right, bye-bye. Okie dokie, yeah, so if you want to win the session as well, make sure you enter your name whenever I do the giveaways again. Next batch is in about 10 days. On the 15th, I put up a post on YouTube, and I draw 2 winners from that every month who can win a session with me. You can ask me about anything in the game, anything that's helpful for you, any things you're struggling with or you're stuck on. Or things about real life or whatever whatever you want to chat about, whatever you think is relevant, whatever will help you. Sometimes about time management, sometimes we talk about boss mechanics, sometimes we talk about general account progression, sometimes we try to talk about specific character tips. It can be anything like that. Other than that, thank you for watching. I hope that it was useful and that you picked up at least 1 or 2 things that maybe you didn't know, or that kind of clarified a topic that you never really got into, but you were also not really sure about how it works exactly. Damn, he's got 50,000 coins. He's going to buy some flames, bro. Yeah. And as always, I stream every day over at twitch.tv/Scardor, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop by. And if you don't want to wait 10 days for a chance of winning, but you want one directly, check the description of the video or use !coaching in the chat. Exclamation marks is where I get all this information from. Well, I made it. I got the information from other places, but then I put it on exclamation marks so you can very easily find information back about any topic in the game. For example, like, oh, what is the odds again? What are the odds again for the ring boxes to get certain? Oh, boom, there you go. Or, you know, what is the what were the odds last soul event that Scardor got on his magnificent double S souls? Oh, he got 22 out of 368 attempts. Damn, what a lucker. That is way too many. There should have only been like 18. Goddamn. Yeah. Any kind of that stuff. You can always use them in the chat, even when I'm offline. You can use them at your leisure. If you have any questions or any remarks or you disagree with something, feel free to let me know and we can have a talk about it. Right. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.